For the past 2 seasons, maybe the most anticipated regular season matchups have been the rare duels between the Denver Nuggets and Philadelphia 76ers, each led by their own unique MVP level big man. The most recent one on Saturday afternoon did not disappoint one bit, and while Joel Embiid went on an absolute tear, rightfully earning tons of buzz, it was actually Philly's adjustments coming out of halftime that stood out to me. The first half was pretty much all Nuggets. They like to run everything through Jokic in the middle of the floor, where they can get into dribble handoffs or move around him as he seeks out open cutters and shooters, and to start this game that was being executed really well. On the very first possession, it was a Jokic handoff to KCP, who used that downhill momentum to get into the teeth of the defense before kicking it out to MPJ for a great look from three. Porter really had it going to start this game, hitting 3 long-range jumpers in the first 8 minutes and entering halftime with 4 in just 5 attempts. Another guy who had it going early was Nikola Jokic. Here they go back to that exact same handoff action, except this time KCP draws 2 to the ball relatively early, leaving the big man unattended all the way out on the perimeter. That threat of Jokic scoring as the screener is what makes this offense work so seamlessly. Bigs are hesitant to leave him alone, and when they stick with him, there's less rim protection to prevent their wings from touching the paint and making the right reads. This time it's Bruce Brown who receives the handoff and gets downhill quickly, forcing weak side defenders to slide down, which then forces an awkward scramble that results in a freebie for the 6'10 sniper. Of course, with a more vulnerable paint, you'll see a fair share of breakdowns that result in layups, and having a 7-foot passing savant means that these opportunities are rarely ever going to be missed. This time it's a fast-paced possession with Joker as the point guard, and because Shake Milton is anticipating that quick dribble handoff, he fronts the screen and Bones is able to shoot backdoor for a reverse layup. Here's another one where they're seemingly setting up for a pin down screen into a handoff for Brown, but instead Jokic just lofts it right behind Harden's head for another wide open gimme. Part of Jokic's brilliance as an offensive player is that he also has the ability to notch up his scoring when needed, and Doc Rivers made the mistake of leaving Montrezl Harrell on the floor late in the second quarter. In these minutes, he started to force the issue a bit more, getting whatever he wanted, from a backdoor layup in semi-transition to a relocation to the wing for a solidly open 3, to a classic big body back down into a short mid-range jumper right over the top. On their closing possession, we got a glimpse of Denver at their best. Embiid sets up in a position to defend a high pick and roll, but instead of screening, Jokic dives down the lane, draws added help, and lobs it to Gordon on the baseline. In this first half, the Nuggets shot a scorching 66% from the field and 59% from 3, scoring 32 points in the paint for a staggering offensive rating of 149. The 76ers just had no answer. Let's go back to that last play for a sec. Notice how the last line of defense protecting the rim is James Harden, who just doesn't have the capabilities to limit both Jokic as a roller and Gordon as a lob threat, and entering halftime, Philly definitely viewed this as a point of emphasis and came out with a key defensive adjustment. Notice how much different it looks when Jokic is met early with tons of pressure by the scrappy PJ Tucker, with Joel Embiid tasked with roaming off of Aaron Gordon as a sort of free safety. Now, when Jokic gets the step, Embiid's ready to meet him and make him think twice before turning around and committing a careless turnover. Now the dynamic on those screen and rolls has completely changed. Tucker can rotate to help turn away the drive, and when the ball gets to Jokic, instead of Harden protecting the rim, it's a 7-foot, 280-pound defensive anchor. Here you see it again, where they're met with full court ball pressure, and as Jokic gets downhill, he's expecting the baseline lob to open up, only to be snatched out of the air by Embiid. He was playing Jokic as a passer, at times almost daring him to shoot, again on the drive, just baiting him into a baseline lob that he's able to take away for another steal. Joel's been one of the league's best paint defenders for more than half a decade now. His size and 7'5" wingspan allow him to just eat up space in the lane as a massive deterrent, while he still moves really well, reacting to threats with a sense of urgency and agility, with the short area burst and timing needed to meet attackers at the rim as a shot blocker. This time it's a pick and roll between Murray and Gordon, and he plays in a deep drop, positioning himself in a way that allows him to take away the roller entirely while still blocking a layup attempt from the ball handler. Here it's that classic two-man game between Murray and Joker. Jamal's able to drive it all the way into the paint, where Embiid forces a dump off to Gordon in the dunker spot before getting up again to block a dunk attempt. And by sitting him as close to the basket as possible, he was able to change everything for a Denver offense that's predicated on freeing up opportunities on the interior, essentially saying that if they're going to be beat, it's by Aaron Gordon as a jump shooter. That's not to say Denver didn't still create a decent amount of quality looks in the closing half of this game though. They were still able to cause a few breakdowns, move the ball, and get some good shots off, but that scorching hot shooting came back to earth, and the scoring just wasn't holding up. Another reason this strategy worked so well for the Sixers is the man-to-man defense of PJ Tucker. Despite standing just 6'5", he's a bulky 245 pounds with a really low center of gravity and extreme lower body strength that allows him to hold his ground against a brute force like Joker while keeping his hands active to make plays on the ball. Note the physicality he plays with, as he makes it really difficult on the entry pass, and instead of Jokic just bullying his way in deep, he forces him to pick up his dribble before backing away to force an off-balance look. Philly's wings did a good job at helping him in these isolations as well. Joker puts it down with the sole intention of applying as much pressure as possible, only for Tobias Harris to sneak into his blind spot and take it away for a transition opportunity that led to a trip to the line. This last one pretty much sealed the deal. Denver starts with a double screen set that Embiid just erases as a rim deterrent. The ball gets kicked back out to Jokic, who immediately puts it down on a drive, only to be met by the big man once again, while Tucker recovers with a swipe down that resulted in his 6th turnover of the half. When comparing it to the first 24 minutes of basketball, that second half almost looks pedestrian, shooting 25% worse from the field, 35% worse from 3, and scoring a total of 20 points in the paint for an offensive rating of just 100 points. With all of that defense though, you still need good offensive execution to cut into the lead, and what we saw was Joel Embiid at the peak of his powers. They absolutely eviscerated the deficit with simple pick and rolls between him and Harden, where James gets downhill to force some added coverage before shoveling it to an easy free throw line jumper. This seemingly easy, yet unguardable action has become a staple in their offensive attack, as Embiid's a threat to score from every single spot on the floor, and very few players, if any, are better at making decisions with a live dribble than Harden. This time the Nuggets actually send 2 to the ball to force it out of Harden's hands, only for Embiid to get it in the short roll and send a no-look dime to a wide open shooter in the corner. Joel's improvements as both a passer and decision maker were the final nail in making these plays arguably the most lethal weapon in basketball, which is really important because if you remember from this same big matchup last season, Denver made a living out of forcing him to be a playmaker, aggressively playing every pick and roll to take advantage of his lack of processing. These strides have also left him more capable than ever at initiating offense himself, even taking a page from Jokic's book on this one, as he pushes the ball in transition like a guard to draw the attention of Murray, opening up a soft touch float to a cutting Melton. Ultimately though, it was his isolation scoring that really did it in, and boy did he put on a show. Jokic doesn't have the lateral quickness to keep up with him in space, so he throws a hesitation into a crossover to just leave him in the dust. And when that baseline drive gets played and there's no apparent lane, he can just use that same hesitation to step right into a pull-up midi. What we're witnessing here is a master of the art of scoring. The biggest guy on the floor is pausing, crossing over like a guard, and stepping back into a jumper. To truly make a statement and finalize this game, it was a long-range dagger off the dribble, which is perhaps the best way to showcase just how game-breaking of a scorer this guy is. Embiid would finish this game with 47 points, 18 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals, and 2 blocks on more than 66% true shooting, not only taking over on the offensive end, but changing everything for Denver's offense as he dominated the game with a brilliant two-way masterclass. Key contributions from James Harden as a playmaker, 13 assists without turning the ball over, PJ Tucker with his man defense on the back-to-back MVP, and even Tobias Harris, whose scoring was absolutely vital in the second half, ultimately helped push them over the edge and secure the win in a marquee matchup. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn my post notifications on to be first on more content. If you're interested in my more in-depth research, make sure to check out my website and social media profiles. You can find those links in the description. Feel free to let me know down in the comments what you thought of this game. As always, I hope you all have a great day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.